Hey, I got to get serious with you guys for just a minute. I hate to start serious, but I need to know where you guys stand. I need to know where my Team Laurel people are. Where's my Team Laurel? And my Team Yanni? My Team Yanni? Okay. So perfect split? Yeah, so we're completely divided as a church. That's great news. No unity in this place. Hey, don't forget that this Wednesday is going to be our night of worship, and it's going to be amazing. I don't know about you, but every Sunday there's like 3 songs. It's powerful. And then some guy named Brad gets up and runs it all, right? So you don't have to worry about that this Wednesday because we're going to have just an hour of worship. We've got a food truck so you can come get some dinner. The Purple Banana going to be here, and it's good stuff. So come get some dinner and have a great time with us. And then our next class, we had to postpone it because of some venue stuff. So next week is our next class. We'd love for you to get on a team. How many in the room would you stand if you are part of the graduating class, both college or high school? Any graduates in the room? Stand up real quick. Don't be afraid. It's cool. There's one front and center. Anybody? Here we go. Come on, make some noise. Yeah. Awesome. Man, awesome. So many graduations. We got to go to Bentonville High Schools yesterday, my nephew, and spent about 26 hours there going through every name. And just love graduations. But we are proud of you guys, and thank you for getting your education. All right. How many of you in the room have ever had a bad day? Anybody ever had a bad day? Oh, wow, somebody's clapping about it. Man. How many of you had a bad day today? How many of you don't have to raise your hand, how many of you are sitting by your bad day? Yeah, hands went up all over the room. We need to go ahead and go right into prayer right now. All eyes closed, just kidding. Yeah, so I want to help you know if you're having a bad day, so I have a few photos to help illustrate if you're having a bad day. Here's the first one. Mom and Dad made me play baseball. I'm out here in right field, and I'm praying the ball never comes, and it does, and I finally try for it, and facial. All right, how about this next one? Yeah. So I don't know a lot about whitewater rafting, but I'm pretty sure that ain't supposed to happen, right? And I love everybody's having a great time up front. This is the best. Poor mom, we never saw her again. We don't know. We don't even know what happened. Only the photographer does. All right, and here's another one. This one's just great, y'all. You see the baseball there in the middle of the screen? I love this guy over here on the right with the hat on. He's making the just major stink face at what's about to happen. And it just so many faces. Duck face going on the left side over there. And the poor girl, she didn't even put her hands up. She's just going to take it right in the stomach. Bring it on. I'm having a bad day. Make it worse. And here's one more. This is me every Monday. Just hanging out. Somebody help me. I'm just going to chill here. It's Monday again. Just in case you needed some help knowing if you're having a bad day. Most of the time we have a bad day, and it has to do with someone mistreating you. And I'm actually going to share a story that I just found out today. I caused someone to have a terrible day. And I'm laughing because I literally found out about it this morning. Dupree, you'll find this funny. Ryan, if he's in the room, you'll love this. When we were in San Antonio, I led a basketball group, and we would play ball at this. Was it an elementary school? It was elementary school, right? And we would play ball every week. And one week, I got home and I didn't have my ring that I'm wearing right now. And I called the school, and I'm like, I left my ring there. And the counselor or whoever got on the cameras, and it was kind of grainy, but there was this little kid that came into the school around where I sit when I'm getting my shoes on and stuff, picked something up, showed his friend, and put it in his pocket. Okay, and she's like, yeah, we're pretty sure he's got it, but it's the vice principal's son. Like, oh, that's going to be an awful discussion. So I had to have this counselor go get this boy and start questioning him, and he's lying to her. He's saying, no, it was just a nickel and all of this. And I'm like, man, this little punk, now he went and he took that ring and threw it in the woods. I ain't ever going to find it, right? That's been over a year ago. I've been thinking about that punk, and he got in trouble at school. His vice principal mom, she gave it to him. He had a bad day. My wife came in this morning. She's like, I was looking under the seat of the car. Here's your ring. I didn't leave the ring there. It was in my car the whole time. Isn't that hilarious? That poor little boy, man. Oh, Oh my goodness. When she showed it to me, my eyes got big, and then I just started laughing like crazy. But I'm sorry, young man, wherever you are, Jesus bless him tenfold. All right. Oh, that's crazy. So I caused a bad day. But the real story I wanted to share with you is in 8th grade, I had probably one of my worst days. In 8th grade, I had a crush. Well, I actually had a crush from like 2nd grade to 8th grade. I started early. But I liked this girl for a long time. And you know, when you're junior high or whatever, if you like a girl, you don't talk to them. That'd be crazy. So you just look at them from a distance and like a creep. And so I would watch this girl. And it was Valentine's Day, and I decided this was my day to pledge my love, okay? So I asked my mom, real romantic, get mom to go get some flowers. So she gets a vase and a rose and a teddy bear that holds a heart that says, "Be mine" on it. I mean, all romantic up in here. So I get it. Me and my best friend in the whole world, my greatest friend, been my best friend forever, we place it in her locker at lunch, and we wait. So lunch is over. She comes. We're standing over in the corner watching, just real creepy. And she opens the locker, and a big smile on her face. It's Valentine. Of course, every girl wants a Valentine, and there's this rose and this beautiful little teddy bear with a heart, and she opens the card, and she reads it, and I write some beautiful little love letter, and then, of course, I don't sign my name. I put "Your secret admirer," like even more creepy, and she's smiling. Me and my friend, we're high-fiving, we're chest bumping, it's working, and then she turns around, and she looks at me, and she smiles, and she starts walking my way. Okay, I was good until that, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do now. So she's walking, guys, and it was literally slow motion. She starts shaking her hair and everything, that like just, and so she's walking slowly to me. She gets up to me, and she says, she's holding the teddy bear, and she says, "Brad, did you get this for me?" And I can't talk. I couldn't say anything. I just stand there, and I'm trying to get words out. It's the only time probably in my life I couldn't speak, because I'm really good at talking, y'all. And I couldn't say anything, and a long pause goes, and she's weirding out, and I'm weirding out, and I'm probably drooling. I don't know. And all of a sudden, my best friend in the whole world looks at her and says, "No, it's from me." My BFF said, "It's from me." So she turns, she looks at him. Fireworks, someone had fireworks in the room. Fireworks were going off. Suddenly, over the loudspeakers, Boys to Men starts playing. It's just unbelievable romantic moment. I even get caught up in it. I'm like, this is so romantic. And I'm like, wait, no, this is my girl. They dated for a year. I set my best friend up with a girl for a year. They dated, y'all. They ended up breaking up, and then I dated her for 2 years, and then we broke up too. But still, the point of the whole story is what he did to me. I remember how I felt as I watched them walk off together. I remember going to school and seeing them holding hands and seeing them, just talking and flirting in class behind me. And I'd turn around, and they're having the greatest time, and I was just so angry. But most of us have had a bad day, and when it happens, it's usually something like that. Something that we remember years later that someone did to us. Can anybody relate in the room? All right, 4 people, cool. Well, hope you have your best friends still. Today we're going to look at how to live through these bad days. And this series is actually based on a book that's about the final statements Jesus makes when he's hanging on the cross. And in Hebrews 12, verse 2, this is going to be our key passage. We're reading out of the Message just to simplify it for your understanding. But it says this: "Keep your eyes on Jesus, he who both began and finished the race we're in. Study how he did it." We're all in a race, but study how Jesus ran his race, because he never lost sight of where he was headed, that exhilarating finish in and with God. So no matter what came his way, he kept his eyes on the prize. He could put up with anything along the way. He put up with the cross. He put up with shame, whatever. And now he's there in a place of honor right alongside God. In the King James, it says at the right hand of God. So what we learn from this is that Jesus is who we should let be our example when he went through what he went through. And I know we've all had bad days, but I'm telling you, you haven't had a bad day like Jesus had. And we're going to take a look at that. But it also says he's now sitting by God, and he's interceding on our behalf. He's up there saying, God, Brad is having a really rough day. His best friend just took his girl, his second grade crush. He needs a little more grace and mercy today. Jesus is up there on your behalf, and we'll look at more of that today. I love what Luke 23:34 says. Jesus is speaking here. Some of his last words, he says, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. Many times the people that hurt us, they don't even know what they're doing. Many times we let people imprison us because of how they've treated us, what they've done to us, when in reality they don't even know what they have done. They don't even know. The first lesson we're going to learn today is this. Forgive everyone who's trying to ruin your life. Forgive everyone who's trying to ruin your life. You know what? Most of them don't. They're not sitting at home thinking, how am I going to ruin their life today? But we get in our head that that is their spiritual gift, is to ruin our life. I had a coach in high school that was the worst. He was so mean to me, y'all. I mean, I played only my junior and senior year, and he was just awful to me. I remember one time I did a behind-the-back pass, and it worked, and it looked awesome, okay? And he called a timeout right then and there, pulled me aside, told me to stop Hollywooding, threw me into the chairs. I fell down. My dad saw it, comes down out of the stands, and he's ready to whip you know what, and it was just this crazy moment. And I had other friends that played that were even better than me that could get away with anything. They could do whatever they could just jog in practice, and he was fine with them. But with me, he would talk about he would get under my skin, and I didn't understand it. Then just a few years later, I graduated high school, and my first real job, I was selling computers, and I was good at it, and I enjoyed it. But I had a boss there that hated me, and I don't even know why. Like, I would make one little mistake, and he would cuss me out. He would yell at me. One time, I remember it got so bad, there was like a service window, and he was on the other side of it, and I'm glad he was, because I literally think if he wouldn't have been, he would have come swinging for me. I would have whooped him, but still, he was thinking about it. I would go sit in my car many days at lunch and just, why? Why does this guy hate me? Why is he trying to ruin my life? You ever had someone like that in your world? Matthew 24:10, Jesus is instructing us and reminding us this. He says, many are going to be offended, many are going to betray one another, and they're even going to hate one another. In Luke 17:1, he says this to the disciples, it's impossible that no offenses should come. Jesus is warning his disciples, warning you and I today, you're never going to have a life where people don't offend you, betray you, hurt you, treat you bad. It's going to happen, and we have to be prepared. So today, we're going to look at it. In fact, if there's anyone who had the right to hold unforgiveness towards others, it's Jesus. In 12 hours, Jesus experienced 5 things that most of us experience, maybe one or two of, and hold on to for a lifetime. He experienced them to the heaviest degree in a matter of about 12 hours. The first one is this: betrayal. Betrayal. He loved the disciples dearly. He spent time with them. He invested in them. He had such a heart for them. And you guys mostly know the story that Judas betrayed him. For a little bit of money, Judas sold him out so that they could arrest him and kill him. Ultimate betrayal. Some of you know somebody in your life that you have loved deeply, and they've betrayed you, and it's hurt you for so long, and you've held on to it for so long, and it's messed you up, it's held you hostage. You've been a prisoner to unforgiveness because someone betrayed you. The next one was false accusations. Jesus went through 3 illegal trials all through the night. Rumors, gossip, stories being made up. I don't know many things I hate more than that. I don't know that there's many things I hate more than the times in my life where I've gotten texts or phone calls or people hitting me up about, hey, I heard this about you. And they're absolutely not true. It's painful. Jesus has all these people that he's trying to heal them. He's trying to save them. He's trying to do good in their lives, and they're yelling and they're mocking and they're making fun of and they're falsely accusing him of everything they can think of. How painful must that have been? Rejection is the next one. He told Peter, Peter, you're going to deny me when you're asked about me. Peter says, Jesus, I would never do that. In fact, I would die for you, Jesus. Not long after that, 3 times he was asked if he knew Jesus, and he said, I don't know this man 3 times. I can't imagine as Jesus hung on the cross, looking out in the crowd, wondering, where are these men that I invested and loved so much? Where are they? Where are they? The rejection that he must have felt. For many of you, the rejection you feel. For some of you young people, maybe not even just young, the rejection that you feel sometimes just by following others on social media and seeing how they're living their lives and how they're not including you, and you have this sense and this hurt and this feeling of rejection. Abuse is the 4th one. Jesus experienced physical and emotional abuse. He was spit on, he was beaten, and the Bible says he was beyond recognition. He was beaten so much that you couldn't even tell who he was anymore. Some of you have experienced emotional, physical, sexual abuse in your lifetime, and it's something that has directed your life. It's something that has grown in your heart. The anger and the hatred and the bitterness has taken over your life. The last one is humiliation, as they mocked Jesus, as they humiliated him in every way possible as he hung on the cross. Telling him, what are you going to do now, Jesus? The mockery that he felt to the heaviest degree. All of that because of what Hebrews 2:17 says. That's why he had to enter into every detail of human life. Then, when he came before God as high priest to get rid of the people's sins, he would have already experienced it all himself, all the pain, all the testing, the world, and he would be able to help where he was needed. Listen, whatever you have experienced, whatever someone has done to you, whatever has affected your life, you need to understand Jesus has experienced it. He was here on earth and went through the most brutal of brutal things so that he could experience what we are going through and so he could know how to help you. He's been there. He's felt it. When we think of forgiveness, a lot of times we think of what forgiveness is, but I want to tell you what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not minimizing the offense. What someone has done to you, it is not just forgetting about it and saying it's fine. It's not about that. Forgiveness is not about reconciliation, even though it's amazing when that can happen. It's amazing when relationships can come back together, but it's not always about reconciliation. Forgiveness is not about doing what is fair. Forgiveness is not about being fair, because if fair was to happen to us for what we've done, I don't think we would want fair. Forgiveness is not about being fair. And forgiveness, lastly, is not impossible. Forgiveness is not impossible. This was a difficult message for me in the first service because it's heavy, but because it's necessary, because I want people to find freedom, because I want people to get out of the prison that they've lived in for maybe years, where the enemy has held you in bitterness and anger, and you can't celebrate anymore. You can't see the best in people anymore. And I'm telling you, Jesus today went through it, and he's saying, I want to help you. I want to get you out of this. So I'm just going to pray real quick as we go into this next challenging part. I want to give you some application to maybe write down and take a note on. Just pray with me. Father, thank you for this message, and thank you, God, for your truth that we get to read in the Word, God, that we don't have to try to make up instruction, that you give us instruction. And so for some today, I truly believe they are going to find freedom. I felt it in the first service. We witnessed it in the first service, and I know it's about to happen here again today. And God, we just ask that you would open our hearts to hear you. Open our minds to receive what you have for us. In Jesus' name. I tell you this today, not because I want to stand up on a platform and tell you how to live your life. I need you to know I will never preach a message to you that I'm not preaching to myself. I'm never going to get up here and tell you how to do things unless I'm doing it in my own life. And so I'm going to challenge you right now with 2 things that you need to do for some people that are in your life or in your past that have hurt you. The first one is this, and it's difficult. It's pray for them. Pray for them. That's a really hard thing to hear. When someone hurts you
And you go get advice, and they're like, well, what you need to do to that person that hurt you so bad so many times, that messed your whole life up, the first thing you need to do is go pray for them. That's the last thing we want to hear. Matthew 5:43 says this. You've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. And the crowd goes wild. Yeah, we love that. And then Jesus says this, but I tell you this, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. I doubt anybody got their phone out and started tweeting that line. I doubt anybody was like, I can't wait to get that bumper sticker, y'all. What happened? Because that's really, really hard to hear. You know why? It's hard for me to hear it even today. It was hard for them because Jesus came and just changed everything, and we've heard this before, but it's still really hard for me to hear it. And I want to let you know that today in my life, there's some people that I'm having to force myself to pray for. There are some people, certain mornings, that I can't get their name out when I'm trying to pray for them because of pain in my life. So I need you to know I don't have it all figured out yet, but I know that when I begin to do what Jesus instructs us to do, there's something transformational and supernatural that begins to happen. So I challenge you to pray for them. The next one's a little harder, believe it or not. The next one is this, to bless them. Luke 6, verse 27 says, but I tell you who hear me, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. I think about Jesus as he's on a cross praying for people that were killing him. And he says, Father, forgive them. They don't even know what they're doing. I'm going to challenge some of you this. Some of you have hurt, and what feels right in our flesh is to find someone else who's been hurt, someone else who's been hurt by that person, someone else who can relate, and what feels good in our flesh is to get them together and have little bash parties and talk about them and put them down and make ourselves feel better. And guess what? It does feel pretty good for a moment, but then it gets real lonely again. Then that hurt that we feel, it hasn't left. In fact, it's begun to grow in us. And we become more angry. And we become more messed up. And now we've just included more in it. That's all we've done. We've allowed the enemy to sow seeds in us that we can't even see good in people anymore. Stop talking about them. Start praying for them. Start blessing them. Romans 12, verse 17. Don't repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what's right in the eyes of everybody. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Don't take revenge, my friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it's mine to avenge. I'll repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed them. If they're thirsty, give them something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Here's what you need to hear. Don't try to overcome evil with evil, but overcome evil with good. Overcome evil with good. If you guys know who Joyce Meyer is, she's a Christian speaker, one of the greatest women speakers, I think, or overall speakers in the world. She's written a lot of books. She recently shared, and if you've heard this story, if you haven't, you should go look her up and hear this story. She recently shared a story that her father sexually abused her over 200 times in her life. Now, I don't know what that is like, but I can imagine once she got out of school and she graduated at 18 and she got out of that environment, I can't imagine the things that she and her flesh wanted to do to that man. She goes on to share, you can read the full story. Over time, she began to pray for him. She blessed him. She bought a house for him next door to her. She ended up baptizing him, and he ended up getting saved. That's hard for me to hear. As I heard the story, it was hard for me to even receive that she would do that for him. I was angry at the guy. I wanted to go get with Joyce and just bash the guy for a while. Overcome evil with good. Here's your challenge. Some of you need to do this. Some of you need to go get a card and write someone a card this week. It's going to be hard because you're going to go to Walmart and you're going to look for the Pastor Brad made me section and it ain't there. You're going to look for the love my enemy section and you ain't going to find it. You need to go get a card and you need to send a card to someone this week. There's some of you have family members that you don't even speak with, and you're missing out on the blessing because there's unforgiveness that's separating you from them. Some of you, there's not even a chance of reconciliation, but you need to get forgiveness, and you need to give forgiveness. Regardless of what they give you, you need to do it. Joyce Meyer, she didn't just forgive him for herself. She forgave him so her dad could understand the love of Jesus, because that just doesn't happen in our world. Some of you need to write a card this week. Some of you need to go a little further, and maybe when you get out into your car today, some of you need to make a phone call. And just thinking about it is a hard thought. Some of you need to make a phone call to somebody today. Send a text today. And regardless of the response, regardless of what they do, you just need to forgive them. And stop being a prisoner to unforgiveness. Because here's what I know: the forgiven forgive. The forgiven forgive. Let me tell you a quick story as we close. There's a pastor in Austin, Texas, that my wife and we heard his story a few years ago. In fact, Brett and Lauren, they actually were in his church for a while. Great man, has a great big church there. Years ago, his wife and 4-year-old son were driving, and a drunk driver hit them, spun the car caught on fire, and his wife and 4-year-old son died. I can't imagine. Just hearing that story when we were sitting in the service, everyone in the room was just, we could feel that weight. I can't imagine. 17 years later, a man walked into his office at the church and said, I need to talk to you. I need to ask you to forgive me. He's like, well, I don't even know you. What have you done to me? He said, 17 years ago, I was drunk, and I'm the one that hit your wife and son's car and killed them. He walked around the desk, embraced the guy. They got on their knees and they began to pray together. For the next 8 years, he pastored this man and his family. He cared for them. He loved them. He served them. The man that killed his wife and baby boy. He'll tell you that the last thing he wanted to do was to love that guy. The last thing he wanted to do was walk around his desk and hug that man. 17 years of thinking of what he would say and what he would do to this guy. And in that moment, he chose to overcome evil with good. I don't know if I could do that, just being honest with you. I know I'm supposed to be really, really great at things since I'm a pastor, but I don't know. But I know this: if we follow Jesus' instruction, things can change for us and things can change for others. Matthew 10:8 says this. Jesus is instructing his disciples as they go out, and he says, freely you have received, now freely give. There's a show on TV some of you have seen that's really, really hard to watch. It's called Hoarders. And I sometimes think about the stories on there, how some of these people, they first begin collecting things, and it's a nice house, and they begin to collect a few things thinking, this is really going to be great. And over time, it goes from a collection to trash to just an awful, ugly, hard to watch thing. I have literally watched episodes where I had to turn it off. It was just too hard to watch. I can somewhat see in our lives at times, Jesus forgives us, and it's so great, and it feels so good, and we hang on to that. And over time, he forgives us again and again, and instead of freely receiving and freely giving, we hoard it, and we hang on to it. And what we think we're doing for good turns into this awful mess where what Jesus is trying to do in our lives, we're not doing for others, and instead what we thought was so great ends up wrecking us. Today, I challenge you, don't hoard the forgiveness that he has given you. Freely receive it, absolutely, but learn to freely give it. A final passage, Colossians 3:13. I don't think it's on the screen, just listen. Make allowance for each other's faults. That's hard. Make allowance for each other's faults. Understand some faults are way, way worse than others. Some faults are way worse than the guy pulled out in front of me and really made me have a bad day. Some of the faults are Joyce Meyer enduring 200 plus sexual abuse encounters with her father. Some of the faults are a man was drinking too much and killed a 4-year-old little boy. It doesn't give a definition of how big or great. It just says faults. We have to make allowance for faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Because remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. Let me pray for you. God, there's not much I can say, but I just ask that the Holy Spirit would begin to come in here and work on our hearts. I thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak truth, but Lord, at the end of the day, it's got to be you. It's got to be you that puts it in our hearts to be the change. It's got to be you that puts it in our hearts to make the phone call, to send the letter, to send the text. It's got to be you that puts it in our heart to finally let go of some things so that we can be free from that past, to be free from what someone else did to us, so that we can start seeing the good in others, so that it doesn't affect just us and our family, but all the people we encounter. God, we ask today that we can be free from that. Today, Lord, we freely receive your forgiveness, and I pray, God, that we can freely give it to others. Challenge us right now, Holy Spirit. Search our hearts, Holy Spirit. Less of us, more of you. God, not what everybody else wants to do, not what we see in media and on the news and in the newspaper, God, but what would you have us do to that person who hurt